Movies are everywhere. Everywhere you look, everywhere you peek your little head around the corner, they're there. It feels like I'm getting jump scared, almost like in that film Mulholland Drive when the dude gets jump scared by that weird little hobo lady. That was freaky. You know, there's so much movies coming out these days, it's kind of hard to pick out what you want to watch nowadays. If you're anything like me, you have to pull up 7 tabs to figure out what you're going to watch in 30 minutes. Let's check out Netflix. Let's see what Netflix has. Oh, what's that? Maybe I should check what the watch list is like on Prime Video. Oh, what's that? Let me open up this streaming service that I haven't used in 7 months. But that movie I heard was kind of good. Okay, what are the Letterboxd people saying about this film? Is it even worth watching if it doesn't have an average rating of 4.8 on Letterboxd? You know, it can be a lot. And sometimes you're in the mood for something short and sweet. Not to say that you shouldn't watch longer movies, but maybe you don't have the time. That's why I want to recommend to you guys 10 movies that are about 90 minutes long if you're just feeling like something short and sweet. And there's definitely obvious ones that I could recommend that have that runtime, but I kind of wanted to do stuff that maybe not everyone's seen, maybe a few kind of hidden gems.
Mom, who died?
Abby. Uncle Morty's second wife's sister. You remember her?
No, I don't think so.
What shorter movies can do really well is kind of take place in one location and expand upon that location, bringing so much in a short period of time. And Shiva Baby is a great example of how to do that well. With the whole film basically being this college-age girl who has to go to this family Shiva, and it takes place almost solely in this one house. But the comedy is so heightened in this that it makes you feel like actually uncomfortable. There's so much awkward comedy in this that you just can't help but cringe at. And it was a movie that was digitally released in 2021, so it didn't exactly get the praise that I think it deserved at the time. It just does so much with the material that it's giving, and it just creates a very heightened and uncomfortable viewing experience, but you just can't help but keep watching it. If you enjoyed Bottoms, the comedy film that came out this year, it's directed by Emma Seligman as well, and as well stars Rachel Sennett. So if you're a fan of that, I would definitely recommend checking this film out.
Carl, tell Mom and Dad about your novel. Carl wrote a novel, everyone. It's great. It's just far out. It's brilliant.
I don't think your parents want to hear my novel.
Mom and Dad, do you want to hear about Carl's novel?
Oh, yeah, sure, Carl.
Well, Rita, it's an allegory about spiritual survival in the contemporary world.
This is a film that I actually just recently watched this year, and I definitely loved it. It is directed by Greg Motola. What the fuck? Motola? Greg Motola, who's the director of Superbad, Adventureland, Paul, which is one that I did want to recommend. I wanted to recommend Paul so badly, but I guess I had to pick something that's more indie and low-key and would make me seem cool. This film doesn't feel like any of those films that he's directed. It feels more in the same kind of energy and vibe as like a Noah Baumbach film. The film basically follows Eliza, who is this woman who is married to Stanley Tucci. And she's kind of skeptical that maybe Stanley Tucci's seeing another woman that's not her, which is understandable. So then her and her whole family road trip into the city to pay him a visit and see what's up. And it's a film that just has this very dysfunctional family dynamic. It's played in a comedic way, but it's never too much, and it still keeps the film grounded, even with these very colorful cast of characters that the film portrays.
Great dog. What's her name?
Lucy.
You're a sweetheart, Lucy.
Where you going?
Going to Alaska.
Woohoo! King salmon. You going to work? Can't sleep here, ma'am. You can't sleep out here. It's not allowed.
Okay.
This is the most recent film that I watch on this list, and as someone who has never seen a Kelly Reichardt film until this one, I was very surprised. I was pleasantly surprised. Not very surprised, pleasantly surprised. This film is not pleasant, though. It features the main character, Wendy, played beautifully by Michelle Williams, and she doesn't really have anything. She has a car, and she has a dog, and she's planning to move to Alaska. The story kind of features her as her car breaks down in this small city, and she has to figure out what to do, and unfortunately her dog, Lucy, goes missing. It's very minimal with its kind of style and direction, but I think that's what makes this film work. It has a very raw and honest approach to the story. It almost feels documentary-like, where the performances are never going over the top dramatic. It feels very real and honest, like I said, with the film. And I think that's what I appreciated a lot, is that it doesn't feel the need to be an over-the-top Oscar bait drama. Oh, this is a crazy performance, she yells. No, there's a lot of subtlety in the direction and the acting, but it still manages to tell a very moving and impactful story. It tugs at your heartstrings too.
You nervous?
No,
You look nervous.
I feel very happy.
Good. Did you get your gym membership?
Tomorrow.
Hey, I had a girl I was gonna be for Barry. She wouldn't let me do it. Sorry, this girl I was gonna bring her.
This is one of my all-time favorite movies, and I've already covered it in a video a while back. A lot of people like that video. That's cool, I guess. But as a 90-minute film, I think it's like the perfect viewing experience. It has comedy, it has drama, it has romance. It has this very surreal and strange world that the film takes place in. And just like in any other Paul Thomas Anderson film, he creates a very unique world that you're living in, and the world building is great, and this is no exception. Adam Sandler is utilized in here greatly, just with his style of comedy that you're used to seeing, but placed into this character, Barry Egan, where he's this awkward and angry man, and you see, what Paul Thomas Anderson is able to capture with that, and it's perfect. Yeah, it's a one-of-a-kind film that I try and recommend to as much people as I can because I love it so much. So if you get a chance, definitely watch it.
I do hope you keep me in mind for any future game nights.
Well, you bet.
I've always enjoyed the camaraderie of good friends, competing in games of chance and skill.
This is one of the most mainstream and modern films that I have on this list, with it being a comedy blockbuster type film from the 2010s. Those can be hit or misses. A lot of them misses and a lot of them hits that you realize, okay, maybe the jokes aren't that funny. This film, though, I've rewatched it a few times since its release, and it still is great, and the comedy works so well, with it being more kind of like situational humor rather than like, oh, funny quip. There is definitely quips and one-liners, but it doesn't focus on that, and I think it's a comedy film that will age greatly over time just with the style of comedy. And I know everyone talks about Jesse Plemons' performance, but I do want to kind of add on to the Plemons pile, as they say. His performance is awesome. Just this guy who has no friends, and the whole character is that he just wants to have a game night with his neighbors. And other than the great comedy that the film provides in this, there's also little touches here and there that the film works so well. There's some great montages that the film has as well. A small thing is that there's some shots in this where it's a bird's eye view of the characters' houses, but they make it with the depth of field and blur that it looks like they're kind of like board game pieces. Like, I was talking about this with a friend the last time I watched it, and we both were raving about that part. We're like, yeah, like it looks like it's board game pieces. I just wanted to like show that like other people care about it too. Like, it's not just like, it sounds weird when it's coming out of my mouth, but like other people are talking about that too, guys. So and after all the lighthearted films, this is one for you depressed little freaks. You want something that's gonna make you sad, make you feel like, what am I watching? This is really sad. This one's for you guys, because this movie is about a guy who wants to kill himself. It's definitely a film that I'm skeptical about recommending, just because it has very dark subject matter, and it's one that I don't know if I have the courage to rewatch it anytime sooner. But as a film that's 97 minutes long, I think it's one that leaves a very huge impact on you, and it's one that you think about more about and kind of the lasting impression that it has rather than initially watching it. Initially watching, it's still great. The cinematography in here is, I was surprised at how great a film could look with it being released in the 90s. It holds up so well. This is a Persian film, and it follows our main character, Mr. Batty. Don't make fun of the name. Don't make fun of the name, okay? It's a sad movie, so don't make fun of his name. And he's driving around the city. He wants to commit suicide, and so he's trying to find someone who's willing to bury him. And so it's an interesting film where you see different characters come in and out throughout the film, and he gives them this request, and you see their different perspective on it. And I think it dives into really interesting themes without it becoming sappy in any way. It does it in a very real and honest way, which I think is great. If you're someone who's looking to get into more films, or especially like more foreign films, I would recommend that. It's definitely not an easy watch, but it's one that I would recommend to people who are looking to learn more about film and that stuff.
What you currently have in your mouth is art!
Now, after watching Taste of Cherry, this would be a fantastic double watch. I know it's a film that people have been talking about a lot, and it's a very beloved and critically acclaimed film. In the scope of like animated films, I think it's one that kind of goes under the radar a little bit. And I have talked about this film before, back when I looked like this. So who knows if my opinion is still valid. And there's definitely a lot of nostalgia that I have for this film. Maybe that's why I put it on this list. But I think looking past the nostalgia, you can still see the amount of effort and passion that was put into this film. It takes the cliche alien comes to Earth and befriends a kid storyline, but it does it in an interesting way. And there's also really good comedy in here. It's a film that holds a very special place in my heart, and I think if you're someone who hasn't seen the film, I think you'll still enjoy it. But if you're someone who has watched it as a kid and haven't watched it in a while, I think I would definitely recommend, because it holds up really well.
Really coming down, huh?
Oh, well, you bet. There you go.
Fare is $1.50.
What?
Fare went up to $1.50 as of midnight.
You're kidding.
Everyone likes to clown on Scorsese and say, oh, this dude is really good at making films, but does he even know how to make a film that's not 3 hours long? Ha ha ha. Yeah, I like Scorsese when he's not making movies that are 3 hours long. Ha ha ha. No, guys, shut up. He made a film called After Hours, released in 1985, and has a runtime of 1 hour and 37 minutes. Now, this is a film that feels less Scorsese than what he's normally known for. It's a film that's a more dark comedy than anything else, and I'm a sucker for films that kind of take place over the course of one day or one night, and then just events unfold for the main character for the worst. And it's a movie that you can just have fun with. And even though it's a goofy and wacky Scorsese film, you can still appreciate the great direction that Scorsese has. There's no denying that the direction in this is great. The synth score in this is fantastic. I love listening to it, even not watching the film. Martin Scorsese is on top of his wacky little game.
Anyhow, between that and unemployment, I get by. Blah, blah, blah. All I know is this game is so fucking cool when you're high.
Now, this is a film that I think would actually pair well with watching After Hours. Maybe watch this one first. Smiley Face, however, is a film that, has a little bit of similarity with After Hours. It basically takes place over the course of like a day or so. It also has a goofy loser character who has this crazy unlucky streak. The film follows Anna Faris, and she just plays this stoner character, and it's about her, and she gets too high and she has to leave her house, and just stuff happens. And that's all I'll say. It has a very stupid kind of style of comedy. That's not an insult to it. I think it works really well. It's a film that, with it being released in 2007, I was surprised of the style of comedy that holds up, because it feels very almost like Gen Z humor, like in a way, where it's more situational comedy, where you're just kind of like laughing at the circumstances that are happening. So if you're just looking for a straight silly and goofy time, short and sweet, this one's for you guys.
They had to leave one guy in charge of hitting the switch, and the guy, the soldier, he couldn't do it. You know, he just sat there knocked out by how beautiful the place was.
Now, I had to end the video off on a good note with a film that Letterboxd users have been raving since the dawn of the app. And if you're unfamiliar with this film or the Before trilogy as a whole, that's okay. That's okay. You know, I'm here to lure you in. It basically follows Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy as these two characters who are lovers, and they meet for the first time on a train in Austria. And they basically just kind of talk and have conversations and fall in love. And that's what the first film is. That's Before Sunrise. And that's a film that is a little bit more than 100 minutes. I still do recommend it, but I think Before Sunset is my favorite out of the whole trilogy. And I think due to its shorter runtime, I think that's a factor into why I like it the most. Before Sunset is a film that feels very concise and tight with its themes, with these characters reuniting after 9 years, and it just follows them, you know, talking, having conversations, and it feels very effortless and natural with its filmmaking. And I think that's something that, looking at it, you're like, oh, that looks easy, but thinking about it, they make it easier than it looks. I think as a film on its own, you could definitely watch Before Sunset, but if you have the time, I would, you know, recommend watching Before Sunrise first. You know, I would recommend, yeah, I'm gonna say I would recommend all three. If you stayed this long for the video and you're looking for a trilogy to watch, this one's for you guys. Yeah, you know, I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, end of the video.